So the federal government just recently passed the Secure Act 2.0, and there are many features of this new rule that are deemed to be positive, but there's at least one rule that has some unintended consequences that could be very costly to your retirement. Are there ways to plan around this rule so that it doesn't have to backfire in your face? Well, yeah, there is, and that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. Hey, this is Mel Stubbs. I'm a financial planner at Christy Capital Management, and our aim is to bring you good, solid information so that you can plan a better way for your retirement. If you need help and you want to talk with me, click right up here and talk to me. So the stipulation that I think can mess up some people's retirement plan is the new RMD rule. So back in 2020 and before, the RMD age was 70 and a half. And you had to start taking required minimum distributions out by that age from your traditional retirement balances. Now, so a couple of years ago with the first Secure Act, they moved that age from 70 and a half to 72. Now with the new Secure Act 2.0, the age 72 gets bumped up to 73, and then it'll get bumped up to age 75 in 2033. Now at first thought, this sounds good because it allows your investments to grow tax-deferred even longer. And they've even extended the amount of time that you can contribute to tax-deferred retirement accounts. So on the surface, this sounds good. So what's really the problem? Well, the problem comes from the unintended consequences of you having a smaller window of time to take those distributions. Well, let's put up a chart here that shows you starting at age 70, and let's go out to age 85. This is just for example purposes. Let's say that for this individual, they're going to live to age 85. So back in the old system, you had 15 years, a 15-year window of time to take the required minimum distributions from age 70 up to age 85. Well, with this new law that got passed a couple of years ago, they've moved that age to 72. So you can see that's a smaller window of time in which to take the distributions. Now that they're moving it to age 75, that's an even smaller window to take distributions. So why does it really matter? Well, with the way that RMDs are figured, it's a certain percentage that you have to take out of your traditional balances, and it's based on your life expectancy. So the older you are, the higher the percentage you have to take out. Now, Ed Slott, who's considered America's IRA expert, he's actually a CPA and not a financial advisor, but he does a lot of research on taxes, and he says the more you push back on the RMD age, the shorter that window to get all the money out becomes. And as you stuff more income into a shorter time, overall, you and your beneficiaries are going to end up paying more in taxes. So what are some of the unintended consequences of you being required to take larger amounts of money out based on this new system? Well, it's going to be increased taxes. So first, let's talk about the taxation of Social Security. So how does that even work? Well, Social Security is taxed based on combined income. That's adjusted gross income plus non-taxable interest received from investments plus 1/2 of your Social Security benefits. And if that adds up to less than $25,000 if you're married filing jointly, then there is zero tax on your Social Security benefit. If your combined income is somewhere between $25,000 and $34,000, you have to pay taxes on 50% of your Social Security income. And if that income is over $34,000, then 85% of your Social Security income is subject to taxation. And so as you're forced to take higher RMDs over a shorter period of time, you will be increasing your income. Now, if your income increases above these limits, then you will be causing more taxation that ordinarily would not have been there on your Social Security. So if you think about it, if you're delaying taking your funds out all the way to age 75, your RMD is based on a lesser life expectancy, and so therefore it's going to be higher. And if tax rates should increase in the meantime, then ultimately you will pay a higher tax bill. Now, the next potential negative impact is on your Medicare premiums. I did a whole video on can RMDs increase your Medicare premiums, and spoiler alert, it can. The minimum Medicare premium is $164.90 in 2023. And to get that premium, if you're married filing jointly, your income has to be less than $194,000. If your income goes above that, the next price increase for Medicare, it's not $164 a month, it goes to $230 a month. And then the next increase above that goes to $329 a month, which is really double the standard Medicare premium. If your income gets forced to be higher because you're required to take out an even larger amount, then it may cause you to pay higher Medicare premiums. Another pitfall of this rule is that by delaying more of your distributions, in theory, that means that your traditional accounts would be larger. Now, depending on how aggressive or conservative you are, how you have your investment set up, over the long haul, markets have gone up in the past. So if you're not taking any money out, because you're delaying it until the RMD age, then in theory, the traditional balance would be higher. And when the traditional balance is higher, and you're now forced to take out an even larger percentage because you're now older than you would have been, so a higher percentage on a larger balance because it grew, it means your RMD can be much higher than it would have been under the old system. Now, can that make your Social Security taxable? It may have previously not been taxable, but under this new higher RMD, yes, it could happen. Well, could it make your Medicare premiums go up? Well, it could, but what else would it do? It makes your taxable income as a whole higher. So think about it, at age 75, if you've got a federal pension, it would have had all the cost of livings all the way up to age 75. If you have Social Security, cost of livings all the way up to age 75. Now you're required to take a minimum distribution, and in theory, it's a larger balance because you haven't touched it. So you'll have to take out a higher percentage because you're now older, which means that RMD can be much higher. And RMDs from traditional balances are completely taxable. So you may have been in the 22% bracket, but now you might be in the 24% bracket. Maybe you'd have been in the 24% bracket, but now you're going to be in the 32% bracket. Being forced to take larger distributions out in a smaller window of time can cause you to slide up that tax bracket and inadvertently pay higher taxes. So the other problem is, what do you think tax rates are going to be when you're 75? You know what they are now, but you don't know what they'll be when you turn 75. If taxes are higher, then this just amplifies this problem of delaying taxes under these new rules. It may cause higher taxation. Now, another issue is what you're doing for your heirs. Prior to 2020, someone could inherit an IRA and do what's called a stretch IRA, where they take minimum amounts out for the rest of their lives as long as they live. If you leave $1 million IRA to your children, they could stretch it out for 40 years or more by taking out small amounts. If you leave a $1 million IRA to your children, they could stretch it out for 40 years by taking small amounts out. That rule went away with the first Secure Act. Now, if someone that is not your spouse inherits your IRA, they have a 10-year window to get the money out of there. Now, this runs into the same problem we talked about earlier, where the window is shrunk to a smaller number of years that you have to get the money out. Think about inheriting $1 million that's all taxable and that you have to take out over a 10-year period. So at first glance, you'd say, well, if it's $1 million balance and I got to take it out evenly over 10 years, I'll just take out $100,000 a year. But it's not quite that easy. If you look here, you have $1 million balance, and let's just say, as an example, it grows at 5% a year. That means you've got to take out $129,000 a year evenly for 10 years, and you can see you're left with $128,901 in that last year. So it's not $100,000 a year, it's $129,000 a year. Now, some people are of the opinion that who cares? My kids are getting the money, they should be happy. But we're trying to plan as efficiently and effectively as we can and not have money unnecessarily go to taxes if we can help it. So the ages that your children will be inheriting this money would be presumably their highest income potential earning years. So whatever their taxable income would have been without the RMD from your IRA that they inherited, it's now going to be $129,000 higher in this example. Do you think that it will push them up into a higher bracket? Well, absolutely it could. And so to quickly run over the unintended consequences of this rule, there could be higher taxation on Social Security that ordinarily wouldn't have been there. There could be higher Medicare premiums that could potentially be avoided if you'd planned better. You could be in a higher tax bracket than if you'd planned better to control your RMDs once you hit 75. And then your children might be taxed at a higher rate on your inherited IRA that they received from you that ordinarily they wouldn't have had to if you'd have planned better. Let's just say that your heirs inherited $1 million Roth account instead of a $1 million traditional account. They still would have to take an RMD, but the RMD would not be taxable. So look at this table to see the difference. Now, it no longer makes sense to pull out an even amount each year because it's all Roth money, and you may want to grow it tax-free as long as you can. So ordinarily, you'd let the balance keep growing at the same 5%, and then in the 10th year, you'd take the full withdrawal of $1,551,328. But it would all be tax-free. So on the traditional example, with $129,000 a year, evenly pulled out over 10 years means your children would have gotten $1.2 million, and it's all going to be taxed. But in the Roth example, they're pulling out over $1.5 million, and none of it's taxed. So what's the difference in the two scenarios? You controlled your RMD by doing Roth conversions and getting the traditional money out of the traditional account and into a Roth account prior to you having to take RMDs and prior to you dying. This can make a huge difference. So how do we fix this problem? If you've made it this far in the video, then hopefully you see that this is a problem. So how do you fix it? Well, to control your RMDs at age 75, you have to control the balance in your traditional accounts. You can't just let the balances grow unbridled and just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And so to do this, you may need to start doing Roth conversions. This is where you take portions of your traditional money and you move it to Roth, and you'd pay tax on the amount that you moved that year. Next year, you'd move another portion. And each year following, you move an appropriate portion for your planning to eventually get either all the money to Roth or at least most all the money to Roth. I did a video here on should you Roth convert all of your money. And there were a couple of reasons why you might not want to do it all mathematically, but you may want to do the majority of it. If you're charitably minded and you want to give away some money to charity, then you may want to not Roth convert the charitable amount and give that away as traditional money. When you give it to charity using a QCD, no one pays the tax. But that's details for another video. In this example, I was using leaving $1 million traditional balance or $1 million Roth balance. In that example, it makes sense to Roth convert all of it. So how do you go about doing a Roth conversion? Well, number one, the TSP or your 401k with your employer will not let you do a Roth conversion. You cannot go into the TSP and take $100,000 and move it to Roth inside of the TSP. That's not allowed. So to do a Roth conversion, you have to move the money out into an IRA to be able to do that. So when can you move your money out to an IRA? You either have to be 59 and a half or over, and you can still be working, but be 59 and a half and over, and you can move your money out to an IRA. Or you have to be retired, whichever one comes first, retirement or 59 and a half. This gives you the opportunity to get the TSP money or the 401k money out into an IRA, and it gives you the flexibility and control to be able to do this type of tax planning. So what's the best way to get money into the Roth? Well, we answer that question in the video right here. If you click right here, you can watch a video on can I contribute to both Roth TSP and Roth IRA in the same year. If you want help, go to ChristyCapital.com and click Talk to an Advisor, and we can talk about your individual situation. If you want to learn more about Roth TSP and Roth IRA, then click the video right here. My name is Mel Stubbs. It's great to see you.